Princess Zira stood at the edge of the grand hall, her slender form framed by the tall crystalline columns that caught the light in prismatic hues. She watched the human delegation enter, their faces bright with polite confidence. Soft music drifted from invisible speakers, and the air was perfumed with rare luminescent flowers imported for the occasion. Zara's violet eyes narrowed as she overheard a human envoy mention, almost casually, "Humans can reproduce at any time." To her, the words sounded absurd among the Valari. Children were born only under perfect lunar alignment. During sacred ceremonies judged by astrologers and healers, as the humans gathered before her dais, Zira raised an elegant hand and offered a cool, gracious smile. She moved with the practiced grace of her people, each step a dance of authority. "We are honored by your visit, humans," she intoned, voice smooth as polished crystal. But inside, her heart fluttered with curiosity beyond disdain. How could a species treat reproduction as a mundane choice? She kept her doubt hidden behind regal poise, determined to maintain her court's dignity. The human ambassador, Dr. Marlowe, bowed and returned her greeting. His eyes held warm intelligence. "Princess Zira," he said, "we value life greatly. For us, bringing new life is a joy, and we have learned to make that joy a part of daily life." His tone was gentle, inviting Zira to question further. He spoke of family planning, simple medical methods, and the truth that for humans, creating a child was not bound by ritual or celestial edict. Zira forced a polite nod, yet struggled to hide her skepticism. As the ceremony moved forward, servants offered crystalline glasses filled with a nectar that glowed faintly blue. Zira lifted a glass and tasted its sweetness, feeling the prickling curiosity in her chest. She glanced again at the humans. Some gently held the hands of their partners. Others spoke softly of children they would like to have soon. There was an easy comfort in their smiles, a tender hope. Zira had never seen offspring discussed so freely, with such unguarded warmth. Suddenly, a delicate human child, no more than 2 cycles old, toddled forward, led by a gentle hand. The child's eyes were bright with wonder, and its small voice rang out, "Princess, will you play?" The hall fell silent in surprise. Zira hesitated, cloak trailing softly on the polished floor. She glanced at the watching crowd, then at the child's eager face. Something in that innocent invitation stirred a longing she did not expect, a longing to touch the simple freedom of life that humans celebrated. With a careful smile, Zira knelt and extended a hand. The child placed a tiny palm in hers. For a moment, the grand hall faded around her. She felt the child's trust, pure and unguarded, and a gentle warmth bloomed in her chest. The assembled Valari court watched in stunned silence, witnessing their solemn princess break protocol to connect with this human being in the simplest way. The moment was fragile and beautiful. When the child giggled and ran back to its mother, Zira rose slowly. She felt a soft breeze of emotion she could not name, something like awe or wonder. The human ambassador inclined his head, pleased. "Our children remind us that life is and always can be something to cherish," he said quietly. Zira swallowed, feeling her usual certainty waver. Perhaps, she thought, there was truth in their words after all. That night, in the private gardens of the palace, Zira walked among the moonlit paths lined with silver-leaved trees. She paused beneath a flowering vine and closed her eyes, remembering the child's laugh. No lunar alignment, no ceremony had ever filled her heart like that simple moment. The possibility of choosing life whenever one wished, of celebrating birth as a daily joy suddenly. It felt less like folly and more like hope. Zira's mind turned, imagining a future where her people might learn from this generous, open species called human. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling a flutter of excitement she could scarcely contain. Princess Zira stepped onto the gleaming corridor of the human orbital station, her violet eyes widening as she took in the soft hum of machinery and the warm glow of living walls. The air here felt alive, as if every breath carried gentle life. She moved slowly, her long robes brushing the polished floor. The humans had invited her to learn more about their ways. Today, they promised to show her how they welcomed new life without waiting for stars to align. She followed Dr. Marlowe down a hallway lined with framed images of human families. Some pictures showed parents laughing as they held infants. Others showed grandparents rocking children beneath bright skies. Zira paused before one image, a group of siblings splashing in a shallow pond. She felt a tug at her heart. For the Villari family portraits were rare art, sacred and formal. Here they felt casual, full of joy and movement. They entered a bright lab filled with gentle conversation. Human scientists in simple uniforms spoke of family planning devices as if they were everyday tools. One researcher, a kind woman named Alyssa, explained how humans used simple pills and gentle procedures to guide when they had children. "We trust our bodies," Alyssa said, voice calm. "We decide when to grow our families." Zira nodded slowly, absorbing each word. She felt a quiet awe that life could be so open, so guided by choice. Nearby, a small cradle held a sleeping infant wrapped in a soft blanket. Zira watched as nurses moved around with careful grace. They whispered lullabies and checked the baby's tiny fingers. Zira's heart fluttered. She had never seen birth made so peaceful. In Villari culture, birth was loud with ritual drums and chanting. Here, birth was quiet and tender, held in gentle hands without grand ceremony. Zira felt a new idea stirring in her mind. Dr. Marlowe guided her to a viewing window. Beyond it, a human family sat in a cozy room. A father cradled a newborn, while the mother looked on with tears of happiness. The child cooed, and the parents smiled with simple love. Zira pressed her hand to the glass, feeling the warmth of their bond. She remembered the cold formality of Villari birth halls. Here every touch spoke of deep care and every smile spoke of hope. Next, they entered a corridor of data displays. Holograms showed graphs and charts of human population growth, but the tone was hopeful, not fearful. The humans spoke of balance. They welcomed children, then chose to pause when families felt complete. Zira listened as Alyssa explained how humans valued each life. "We protect our children," she said, "and we plan for each one." To Zira, this balance felt new, so much freedom yet so much thought. In a quiet alcove, Zira watched a group of young scientists planting seeds in soil. One of them, a gentle man named Jasper, invited her to help. She knelt beside him and pressed a seed into dark earth. Jasper smiled. "For us, children are like seeds of the future," he said. "Nurture them and watch them grow." Zira's fingers trembled as she felt the dark soil's promise. She realized that humans saw life as a garden to tend, not a ritual to observe. Suddenly, the infant from the cradle appeared, toddling towards Zira with small steps. The nurses called gently, but the child reached Zira first and offered a tiny flower. Zira knelt and accepted it, her heart swelling. The child's bright eyes held trust and wonder. Zira felt tears rise. She placed the flower in her hair and smiled. The child laughed and clapped, then returned to its mother. Zira remained kneeling for a moment, feeling the simple magic of that gift. As the tour ended, Zira stood beneath the station's dome, where stars peeked through transparent panels. She closed her eyes and let the images of baby laughter, quiet, birth, and gentle hands fill her mind. She felt something new take root, a soft hope that life could be chosen and celebrated at any moment. When she opened her eyes, she saw Dr. Marlowe bow and smile. Zira bowed in return, her mind alight with possibility. She knew this lesson in adaptability would change her world forever. Princess Zira stepped into the station's hydroponic gardens, where soft green tendrils curled around glass tubes, glowing with gentle light. She paused at the entrance, breathing in the warm, humid air spiced with the scent of fresh herbs. Humans, in simple tunics, moved among the plants, laughing as they tended to seedlings and chatted with children playing beneath hanging ferns. Zira felt a quiet thrill here. Life bloomed everywhere. The circle of growth was honored in every corner. She followed a mother and daughter duo as they knelt by a bed of bright orange blossoms. The little girl carefully spooned nutrient gel onto each root, her tongue peeking out in concentration. The mother smiled, pride shining in her eyes. Zira crouched beside them, watching the child's gentle hands. The mother explained, "We teach our children to care for life early. Planting helps them learn responsibility and hope." Zira nodded, imagining Valari children under strict tutors, reciting chants instead of feeling the soil. A young scientist approached Zira, holding a transparent dome over a cluster of glowing spores. "We're growing these for nutritional research," he said softly. "We share these plants with our families. Every harvest feeds both body and spirit." Zira lifted the dome, releasing a faint, sweet aroma. She inhaled deeply, feeling warmth spread in her chest. To the Valari, science and ritual were separate. Here science itself was a ceremony of care, each experiment a promise of sustenance and joy nearby. A pair of human grandparents sat on a low bench, watching their grandchildren chase floating, pollinating drones. The grandparents' hands rested on each other's knees, love quiet but deep. A child ran by, calling out to them, and they laughed, beckoning it closer. Zira observed how generations mixed freely, elders guiding the young without fear or distance. She recalled her own family's strict age divisions where children and elders passed in silent reverence. Here life felt woven into a living tapestry, as the sun of the station's simulated sky dipped toward its evening hue. Zira joined a circle of humans, sharing stories by a reflecting pool. They spoke of first steps, first words, and the hope each new life brought. One man, with silver at his temples, described the day his granddaughter was born on a stormy night, and how her cry felt like a beacon in the dark. Zira closed her eyes, imagining that beacon lighting the depths of space, guiding lost ships home. A gentle hum signaled feeding time for the youngest ones. Nurses brought soft, formula-like nourishment in small cups. Parents held infants close, offering sips and soft songs. Zira knelt again, offering her hand as a toddler reached for her finger. The nurse laughed and said, "They trust strangers here. We teach kindness as we teach care." Zira felt tears slip down her cheeks, brushed them away, surprised by the raw emotion of simple trust. Before leaving, Zira paused by a sapling planted in a clear basin. Its roots curled around a small crystal taken from Valari mines. A plaque read, "Growth unites worlds." She touched the crystal, feeling its smooth coolness. She thought of her people's rituals, of waiting for moons to bless a birth. Life was chosen and nurtured without fear. Zira bowed her head, a vow forming in her heart. She would bring this lesson of bonds, beyond biology, back to Valari Prime. As she walked back through the gardens, Zira carried the memory of laughter, soil in small hands, and the quiet power of growth. She realized that humans did not simply live, they celebrated living every day. That celebration, she understood now, was the true magic of their species. With each step, her hope grew stronger. One day, Valari families might plant seeds of life just as freely, and the galaxy would be richer for it. Princess Zira walked down the curved corridor when suddenly the lights dimmed. A low hum of machines fell silent, and the soft glow of the living walls flickered. She paused, feeling a chill in the warm air of the station. Around her humans stopped their work and exchanged concerned glances. Alarms began to chime gently, not in panic, but as a call to action. Zira's heart pounded, not with fear, but with curiosity. She wondered how humans would respond when life support faltered, and she braced herself to witness their true spirit. The station's emergency lights bathed the hallway in pale red. Engineers in simple jumpsuits hurried past, tools in hand. Some carried infants in secure slings, their small faces calm against the soft fabric. Medics guided parents along as they moved, still comforting their children with gentle words. Zira fell in step beside them, her robes trailing softly. She could see a mother humming a lullaby as she balanced a baby on her hip. A father offered his hand to a toddler who reached out without fear. Zira's throat felt tight. Here was life at its most fragile, yet human faces held steady resolve. They arrived at the control room, where consoles lay dark. A team of technicians worked quickly, their hands moving over panels and wires. A nurse knelt beside a display, feeding a newborn from a small bottle while monitoring energy levels. Zero watched in awe as parents leaned in close, sharing data screens and offering tools to replace fuses. No one shouted orders. Instead, they spoke in calm, clear tones. "Pass me the spanner," one engineer said to a scientist. "Hold the baby steady," another added. Children's quiet coos mixed with the soft clicking of machines. In that moment, Zero felt a profound respect for their unity. After minutes that felt like moments, power pulsed back through the station. Lights brightened, and the hum of life support returned. A cheer rose, but it was gentle, more of a shared sigh than a shout. The mother finished feeding her child and stood, brushing a lock of hair from the baby's forehead. The toddler hugged its father's leg, then waved at Zero before skipping away. The engineers and medics exchanged tired smiles and high fives, their relief clear in their eyes. Zero stepped forward, her voice soft. "Thank you," she whispered, surprised by the emotion trembling in her words. The humans nodded, glad to share their strength. Later, Zero joined a small group in the station's common room. A circle of parents and children gathered around a low table lit by restored lamps. One father held his newborn and offered it to Zero. She accepted the tiny hand, feeling its warmth against her fingers. A mother poured tea for everyone, offering Zero a cup of spice brew. As she sipped, Zero listened to stories of other crises the station had faced: meteor strikes, solar flares, and how humans had rallied each time. Each tale ended with a quiet celebration of life's return. Zero's violet eyes glistened as she imagined her own people learning this calm courage. As the children played with small wooden blocks, stacking them into towers, Zero felt a soft tear slip down her cheek. She thought of Valari rituals, of how crises were met with ritual chants and elaborate ceremonies. Here, crises were met with hands that helped, voices that reassured, and hearts that stayed open even when fear pressed close. Zero realized that humans made hope tangible by facing trouble together, by holding life gently and repairing what was broken. She closed her eyes, listening to a father singing a lullaby by the playmat. In that melody, she heard the promise of new beginnings. When Zero returned to her private chambers, she looked out at the stars beyond the station's window. She pressed her hand to the glass, remembering every face she had seen: engineers with grease on their cheeks, nurses singing softly, parents cradling infants, children offering flowers. She thought of how humans turned crisis into connection, how they wove life's fragility into threads of care. A small smile formed as she whispered to herself, "I will share this with Valari Prime." And in that silent vow, Zero felt the quiet power of hope, ready to bloom wherever life was chosen and cherished. Princess Zero entered the quiet birthing chamber, its walls glowing softly with bioluminescent panels shaped like petals. The air was warm and calm, scented with gentle herbs that eased both mind and body. She followed midwife Riona down the smooth corridor, her violet eyes wide with curiosity. Riona moved with slow confidence, carrying a basket of soft linens and tiny blankets. Her voice was low and soothing. "This is where we welcome new life," she said. Zero nodded, her heart beating fast with anticipation of what she would see inside the chamber. Soft music played, a simple melody of wind chimes and humming strings. In the center, a human mother lay on a cushioned bed, her partner holding her hand. The mother's face shone with quiet strength and wonder. Beside the bed, Riona arranged pillows and offered the mother warm water in a cup. Zero watched as the mother took a gentle sip, eyes closing in relief. Riona whispered words of comfort, her tone more like a friend than a ritual guide. Zero felt a wave of emotion at the mother's calm courage. The midwife guided Zero to a low bench where she could observe without crowding the family. From there, Zero saw the mother breathe in and out, each breath steady and deep. Riona placed her hand on the mother's shoulder and offered soft praise. "You are doing wonderfully.
Oh.
Each breath brings you closer to meeting your child." Zero felt tears prick her eyes at the tenderness of the moment. In Valari culture, birth was loud and formal. Here it was simple and full of compassion. After a few gentle pushes, a small cry filled the room. Zira felt her chest tighten at the sound of new life. The mother's partner leaned over, his eyes glistening as he received the child and placed it on the mother's chest. The baby's skin was soft and warm, and its cry faded into small sighs of comfort as it felt its parents' heartbeat. Zira saw Riona wrap the newborn in a blanket, then quietly help the parents adjust their hold so they could both touch their child. The midwife's hands were swift and precise, but her face held a gentle glow of pride and joy. Zira rose from the bench and stepped closer, offering her own shawl to Riona. The midwife accepted it with a grateful nod and draped it over the mother's shoulders. Zira's fingers brushed the mother's arm as she did so, and the mother smiled, eyes filled. With gratitude, Zira felt warmth spread through her. In that simple touch, she understood how humans shared care and kindness, even at the most private moments. As the family settled, Riona invited Zira to assist with placing a small crystal charm by the baby's blanket. The charm was a human symbol. Of welcome or smooth stone engraved with a heart, Zira took it and held it gently. She whispered a wish for the child's health in her own language and laid the charm beside the blanket. The mother watched, her eyes soft with trust. Zira realized that this ceremony, though brief, held deep meaning. It spoke of choice, support, and the celebration of life's beginning. Afterwards, Riona led Zira to a quiet corner where she showed her the chamber's keepsakes, tiny handprints pressed into clay, seeds planted to mark each birth, and simple drawings made by parents. Zira saw the drawings, colorful sketches of families under stars, children holding parents' hands, hearts entwined with vines. Each piece held personal stories of joy and hope. Zira picked up a small clay handprint and felt the tender shape pressed into it. She smiled, knowing that each print marked a life chosen and welcomed without fear. Before leaving, Zira looked back at the family. The mother held her newborn close, humming a lullaby while the partner gently stroked the baby's head. Riona stood by with a soft smile, ready to help with anything else they needed. Zira bowed her head in respect. "Thank you," she said quietly, voice full of feeling. Riona placed her hand over her heart. "Life is our greatest gift," she replied. Zira nodded, tears finally falling freely. She pressed a hand to her own chest, feeling her heart swell with hope. That night, in her private quarters, Zira sat by the window and gazed at the twin moons of Valari Prime shining in the dark sky. She held the small crystal charm she had placed by the newborn's blanket. Its smooth surface reflected the moonlight. Zira thought of the midwife's gentle guidance, the mother's brave strength, and the simple ceremony that had filled her. With awe, she made a silent vow. Her people would one day learn to welcome life with the same open hearts and caring hands. And in that promise, Zira felt hope bloom like the quiet petals of the birthing chamber. Princess Zira entered the nursery wing, carrying a tray of water vials for the hydroponic plants that lined the corridor. The air was cool and fresh, filled with the soft scent of green leaves. She moved carefully, balancing the tray on her arm. At her side, a human nurse named Celine walked with a gentle smile. "Thank you for helping," Celine said. Zira nodded, feeling both nervous and excited. She had never worked so close to human children. They reached a low table where several toddlers sat in a circle. Each child held a small plant sprout in a clay pot. Zira knelt beside them, setting down the tray. The children looked up with bright eyes. One little boy asked, "Will you plant seeds with us?" Zira smiled and offered a pot. The boy's face lit up. Zira felt a warm glow in her chest. This simple task felt full of meaning. As Zira helped the children water their plants, she watched how they spoke to each sprout. "Grow strong," one girl whispered. "We will care for you," another said. Zira's heart fluttered. She thought of her own people, who spoke to their rituals, but rarely to living things. Here, every leaf and every child was given a voice. Zira let her fingers touch the soft green leaves, imagining life growing under her care. A small child with curly hair toddled closer and tugged at Zira's robe. "Do you have children?" the child asked in a clear, trusting voice. Zira paused, surprise warming her face. She knelt and looked into the child's eyes. "Not yet," she said quietly. The child smiled and patted her knee. "You will." It said simply. Zira felt tears gather. The child's faith in her felt like a gentle promise she had never known. Celine guided Zira to a larger planter filled with roots and shining crystals. "This plant needs more water," Celine explained. Zira lifted a vial and poured the clear liquid over the soil. She watched roots drink deeply. The plant swayed as if in thanks. Zira felt a soft wonder. She thought that life, whether plant or child, responded to simple care. She understood now that nurturing was a gift and a choice. The children finished planting and formed a small parade, each carrying their pot. They led Zira through the corridor, chattering stories of their dreams for the plants. One child said, "I will give my plant to my mother when it blooms." Another said, "I will watch it every day." Zira followed, listening to their hopes. She felt lighter with each step. Their dreams warmed her heart like sun on spring. Soiled at the end of the wing, a gentle bubble of light marked a play area. The children set their pots on a low bench. They turned to Zira and asked her name. "I am Zira," she replied softly. The children giggled at her name's musical sound. They sang her name in a tiny tune. Zira laughed, the sound clear and bright. She joined their song, and for a moment she was not a princess but a friend. Later, Celine brought Zira to a quiet room filled with plants and children's drawings. The walls held sketches of families under stars and gardens of glowing flowers. Celine explained that each drawing was a wish for the future. Zira ran her fingers over a drawing of a family embracing. Under 2 moons, she felt a pang of longing for her own world. She closed her eyes and made a silent wish, to bring this hope home. Before leaving, the children gathered for one last gift. They pressed small leaves and flowers between paper sheets. Then they handed the pressed blooms to Zira. Each flower was a different color. Zira accepted them with a shaking hand. She felt their warmth as if they carried human love. She placed the pressed flowers in her gown. Their simple beauty made her promise ring clear in her mind. That night, Zira stood in her private chamber, the pressed flowers on her desk. She looked at their colors under moonlight. Each petal reminded her of laughter, trust, and choice. Thought of the child who believed she would have little ones, and of every plant she had helped grow. Zira pressed a hand to her heart. She felt hope bloom like a new sprout. She knew that when she returned to Villari Prime, she would share this truth. Life is a gift we choose and nurture with love. Princess Zira returned to Villari Prime with her heart full of human warmth. She stepped from the starship and felt the cool wind of her homeworld. The crystal spires of the palace shone under twin moons. Zira held the pressed flowers and the small crystal charm close to her chest. Each petal and glimmer reminded her of the children's laughter, the gentle midwife's care, and the hope she had found in simple moments. She walked through familiar halls, but her mind was alive with new ideas. The memories of human kindness and choice bloomed inside her like bright flowers. That evening, Zira called the Grand Council to meet in the Great Chamber. Her silver robes trailed behind as she entered. Villari elders and advisors sat in stoic silence, each face lit by pale lamps. Zira placed the pressed flowers on a low table before them. She took a steady breath and spoke softly. "I have learned that life can be chosen and nurtured at any time. It need not wait for lunar rituals." The chamber was still as she told of human families, of parents and elders living together in joy, of crises met with calm care, and of birth welcomed as a daily gift. She described the hydroponic gardens, the nursery's soft light, and the simple ceremony of the birthing chamber. As Zira spoke, the elders' faces moved from doubt to wonder. Some closed their eyes, imagining children laughing in their own gardens. One elder leaned forward and asked, "Do you truly believe we can change our sacred ways?" Zira met his gaze with gentle strength. "I do," she said. "Humans taught me that ritual can honor life without fear. We can guide our families with open hearts." She held up the crystal charm, and the council saw the heart engraved on its smooth surface. It glowed faintly in the lamplight. Long moment, no one spoke. Then an advisor stood and said, "Our people have long feared birth outside the moon's blessing. But if choice can bring hope, we must try." Another elder added, "We will form a new circle of midwives to learn human methods." The council began to murmur in agreement. Zira felt a warm glow as plans formed. A trial of off-cycle births in a quiet wing of the palace. A new garden, where children and elders could plant seeds together, and a simple ceremony to welcome life at any time. Hope filled the chamber. Like sweet music, after the meeting, Zira walked in the palace gardens under the soft glow of bioluminescent trees. She held the crystal charm in her palm and thought of the human mother she had met. She imagined Valari mothers holding infants in clear chambers, midwives guiding them with gentle words, and families gathering in joy. She pressed the charm to her heart and whispered, "We will grow together." Soft breeze rustled the silver leaves above her, as if the world itself agreed. In the days that followed, Zira visited the palace nursery to oversee the first human-trained midwives. She watched as Valari nurses learned to calm mothers with gentle tone, how to wrap newborns in soft blankets, and how to honor each first cry with simple praise. She saw Valari children planting seeds with elders in a new garden under the moons. Laughter echoed where solemn silence had once ruled. Zira's heart swelled with pride and hope. One morning, Zira stood before a small gathering of Valare families in the new garden. A Valare mother held her infant close and smiled as she placed a hand on a sprout. An elder patted the child's shoulder and told a story of growth. Zira spoke quietly to the crowd. "Today, we choose life with open hearts. We honor birth as a gift, not a command." The families nodded, eyes bright with possibility. Felt tears of joy slip down her cheeks. That night, Zira took a quiet walk in her private courtyard. She looked up at the twin moons and thought of the human station's dome, where stars shone above loving families. She touched the pressed flowers still in her hand and felt their softness. Her mind turned to the future, children born at any time, families growing by choice, and worlds linked by hope. She pressed the crystal charm to her lips and whispered thanks to the humans who had shown her new light. As she left the courtyard, Zira knew her world had changed forever. Life would no longer wait for perfect moons. Instead, it would bloom like flowers in sunlit gardens, chosen and nurtured with love. In her heart, she carried human kindness and had learned that hope could grow at any moment. And under Valari skies, she smiled, ready to share this gift with all her people.